Our true crime podcast will begin in just a moment, but first a word of caution. Jen and Cam are about to discuss the graphic and shocking details of another true crime. In the event that a young child or an individual with chronic anxiety or a heart condition is listening, we urge you to switch off your streaming device now.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Cam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing fantastic, even though that today is the first day of daylight savings time.
I know. So it's 11:20, but really 12:20.
Yeah, it's
but really
11:20.
I forgot how fast this day goes by because of 1 hour. I just don't like it.
It's the worst day of the year
kind of
for
is.
me.
Well,
It
Sunday-itis.
really
The Sundays?
Mhm.
Come on.
I know.
They should do this on Friday night, and then you can adjust for the weekend. I'm just saying.
They shouldn't do it ever.
I'm going to write to somebody about that.
They shouldn't do it ever. It should just stay one time, perfect, forever.
I hear you have a case for us today.
I do. Actually, our good friend Ethan sent us in another case. Can you believe it?
He's amazing because, wow.
I know.
Just
awesome.
saying that. Thank you,
Awesome.
Ethan.
So you ready?
I'm so ready.
Should I start it? I'm going to read it this time.
You're going to read
I
it.
want the Ethan's glory here.
Oh, I was like, what do you mean you're going to read it? I was like, are you going to telepathically
I'm
just
gonna
say
telepathically.
it? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to share his script this time.
Yay, Ethan. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what this is about, so that's good. I like it.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Sugar Land, Texas is the largest city in South Bend County, Texas. It's also located about 20 miles southwest of downtown Houston. As of the 2010 census, Sugar Land sat at a total population of about 79,000 people. The town is named because during the beginning of the 19th century, Sugar Land was home to a very large sugar plantation. However, since being incorporated as a town in 1959, Sugar Land's population has grown rapidly as an edge city. Sugar Land residents all knew the Whitaker family. Kent Whitaker, 55, worked as a comptroller for a construction company, and his wife Patricia, nicknamed Tricia, was a retired elementary school teacher. They also had two sons who were to start a life of their own as well, 19-year-old Kevin and 23-year-old Thomas Bartlett Whitaker, who we will be calling Bart from this point on. Bart had just taken his final exam and was about to graduate from Sam Houston State University with honors and even graduating magna cum laude, meaning that he would be graduating in about the top 10 to 15% of their class. On September 10th, 2003, the family went to a favorite seafood restaurant located about 10 minutes away from their Sugar Land subdivision home. The dinner was a special one, as it was to congratulate Bart on his graduation, and during the dinner, Tricia and Kent gifted Bart a $4,000 Rolex watch. It's quite a graduation gift.
Hello? I'll take that. I guess if we graduated with a cum laude of anything, maybe we would have had that.
I guess.
But we were more like flunky
thank God
cum
you
laude.
graduated. We were sweating it out.
Totally.
However, following their dinner, when the family returned home, tragedy struck. After Kevin unlocked the door, he was shot in the chest. Then, as Patricia entered the home, she was shot in the chest as well. Kent Whitaker was then also shot. The bullet would shatter his humerus bone and just narrowly miss his heart. Bart was a bit behind as he grabbed his phone from the car, but however, when he walked in, he was shot in the upper left arm. But despite being shot, he was still able to chase the gunman out the back door. One of the first people to the scene wasn't a police officer or paramedic. Rather, it was the Whitaker's neighbor, Cliff Stanley. He used his own shirt to cover the flow of blood from Kent's bullet wound. Stanley would end up calling 911, as would Bart. Bart said that he was shot in the arm and he had chased the assailant out the door. However, when the 911 operator asked Bart to describe the assailant, Bart said he didn't know, but that he possibly thought the assailant was black. That's a big warning sign right there. However, Kent Whitaker noted that he saw white skin around the eye holes of the mask the perpetrator was wearing. Kent and Bart would be lucky and survive the shooting. Unfortunately, Kevin died within minutes of being shot, and Tricia died while being airlifted to Memorial Hermann Hospital. This crime shocked Sugar Land because even despite its big population, the homicide rate in the town was quite low. Detective Marshall Slott, one of the first detectives on the scene, originally thought the 911 operator was joking when he heard a quadruple shooting had taken place in Sugar Land. Even Kent Whitaker first thought it was a prank by one of his son's friends when he first arrived home and saw the gunman. That's some pretty shitty prank right there, honestly. Detective Slott found the most important key piece of evidence on the scene: the murder weapon, a 9mm Glock handgun, which was registered to Kevin Whitaker. He also found a black leather men's glove, which was lying on the curb next to Bart's Chevrolet Yukon SUV. When police looked through the house, they found a messy scene on the first floor master bedroom. Dresser drawers had been opened, but only about 2 inches. This would make it near impossible to rob anything from the dresser. None of the contents had been disturbed either. Furthermore, jewelry, as well as expensive audio and video equipment, was left out in the open, but this was not disturbed either. Police believe the killer entered the home through a built-in crawl space in Kevin's upstairs bedroom. He then pried the gun safe open to grab Kevin Whitaker's gun. The same night of the shooting, an armed robbery took place not too far away from the Whitakers' home. However, the perpetrator of the robbery led police to the apartment complex, where he then killed himself. The man was identified, and police used bloodhounds in the attempt to link the man who committed the armed robbery to the shooting at the Whitakers' residence. However, no correlation was ever found. Investigators started to learn about the family a bit more, particularly Bart. They found out that Bart had left Clements High School after being found responsible for a series of robberies that he committed with other students. After being sent to a Christian academy, Bart was evaluated by a psychiatrist who would diagnose him with delusional paranoid disorder. Despite this, Kent and Tricia bought Bart several luxury vehicles and a lakeside townhouse in Willis, Texas, which is located about 70 miles north of Sugar Land. Bart's tuition was even paid for when he attended both Baylor University and Sam Houston State. That's really pricey. Pretty lucky kid right there.
Texas.
As usual, it was not only the police doing the investigation. The media started investigations too. Houston Chronicle reporter Eric Hansen called Sam Houston State University to inquire about the degree that Bart Whitaker was going to be awarded. However, Hansen learned a surprising truth when he talked to a person that worked at the university. Hansen said that the person told him that Bart Whitaker was not attending Sam Houston State. He wasn't even graduating, and he certainly wasn't even graduating with honors.
He's lying.
He's a dirty, dirty
His pants
liar.
are on fire.
Naughty Bart. When Bart was confronted with that evidence, he told the investigators and his father that, yeah, you know what? I already told Mom. But you know what? His mom was already dead, so she could never corroborate that evidence. Could never corroborate it. Even more troubling information would soon come out. On December 15th, 5 days after the murders of Tricia and Kevin, a man working as a bank teller in Dallas entered a Sugar Land Police Department wanting to speak to Detective Slott. Adam Hipp, a former classmate of Bart Whitaker at Clements High School, told Detective Slott that 2 years earlier, in 2001, Bart had attempted to recruit Hipp to kill Kent and Tricia in order to inherit his parents' share of the construction business. Hipp gave police a diagram of the Whitakers' household and indicated where Bart had instructed Hipp, who would be the gunman, to lie in wait as Bart took his family to dinner. However, Kent and Tricia found out about the murder plot, but they didn't take it seriously as they thought it was just, quote, too far out. Bart told his parents it was a simple misunderstanding, and Kent and Tricia believed him. Now, don't you think this would cross Kent's mind, honestly? He comes home one night from dinner and the family gets shot.
Well,
don't you think Kent would say, I think possibly this sounds familiar. I don't know, but I guess you don't want to believe your son would do something like that.
I think that would be so hard to wrap your mind around.
I do too. I really do. Hip's alibi for the night of December 10th, 2 years later, checked out as he was working late at his job as a bank teller in Dallas. It's about 4 hours away from Sugar Land. Hip also wouldn't get in trouble for his involvement in the potential 2001 plot. He got an attorney and agreed that he would not be prosecuted for anything if he helped assist the police in their investigation into Bart Whitaker. Police started investigating Bart's involvement into the murder of his mother and brother, which, pretty damn smart, I tell you. Detective Slott looked at 21-year-old Chris Brashear, who lived in the Willistown house that Bart got from his parents. Chris also worked with Bart at the Yacht and Country Club in Lake Conroe. This is located about 10 miles from the townhome that the boys lived in. A few doors down from Chris Brashear lived Stephen Champagne. Bart also knew Steve Champagne, as Bart got Steve a job at Lake Conroe Country Club as a bartender. Both Champagne and Brashear denied involvement in the crime, and they agreed to take an interview. They both provided DNA samples and submitted scent specimens for the bloodhounds. Scent specimens are used for forensic identification of human beings. This is mostly carried out by using specially trained dogs. The dogs would get a scent match from the glove found inside Bart Whitaker's SUV, drawers in the master bedroom of the Whitaker home, and Kevin Whitaker's pried open gun safe and the murder weapon. The dogs did get a hit, and it was Chris Brashear's scent. All of this was happening around October of 2004, and about this time, Adam Hip, remember the one that Bart originally tried to get to do the murder in a couple years prior? Adam was cooperating with the police. Adam contacted Bart and started to record conversations that he was having with Bart. In a particular conversation, Bart agreed to pay Adam $20,000 to lie to the police about any involvement that Bart had had in 2001 murder conspiracy. Bart mailed Adam $240 to a Dallas post office box for Adam to receive the payment. Bart Whitaker's fingerprints were found on the letter containing the money. Bart started to catch wind of the knowledge that he was going to be arrested for these murders. So 2 months later, on June 28, 2004, Bart Whitaker's Chevrolet Yukon was found with the engine still running, but abandoned at a Houston apartment complex. Bart was gone, and it appeared that he had fled. This led the case to stall all the way until August of 2005. At this point, the police had wiretapped the phones of Stephen Champagne and Chris Brashear's for an attempt to get a lead on whatever happened to Bart. However, Steve and Chris never spoke to each other, and neither of them spoke to Bart either. Despite this, grand jury subpoenas were served to friends and family members of both men. This sent Stephen Champagne mad, and eventually he gave up. On August 28, 2005, Stephen Champagne met with Detective Marshall Slott in Conroe and confessed to his part of the crime. Now, at first, Steve tried to weasel his way into a lighter sentence. He claimed that he had no knowledge about these murders when he actually drove Chris Brashear away from the Whitaker home on that December 10th night of 2003. Steve took a polygraph test, but he would fail. So later that day, he gave a videotaped full confession, which implicated himself, Bart Whitaker, and Chris Brashear in the murders of Kevin and Patricia Whitaker, and the attempted murder of Kent Whitaker. He also showed detectives where both he and Brashear discarded a bag of evidence, which they threw off a bridge at Lake Conroe. Miraculously, almost 2 years later, divers found a bag that contained the glove that matched the glove that was left at the crime scene. They found the water bottle, which matched Chris's DNA, which was sealed in the inside of the cap, because you'd think the water would wash it away, but since it was inside, the cap was on tightly, the DNA was still in there. And a chisel with the paint that matched the scraped-off paint from Kevin's gun safe. On September 14th, 2005, Detective Slott got a tip from Rudy Rios, an old co-worker of Bart's. Rios said that Bart was in Mexico living under the name Rudy Rios.
Yeah, what a POS.
The real Rudy Rios had sold Bart Whitaker his identification and drove him to Mexico for only $3,000. That's a lot of money, or that's not enough money to aid and abet a fugitive, I don't think.
He just lives his best life down there.
He does.
He does.
Now living as Rudy Rios, he had settled in a town of Cerralvo, not too far away from the Texas border. Whitaker now had a girlfriend, and that girlfriend even got him a job at a furniture store her family owned. Bart made up a story that the gunshot he got from his arm was when he was in war in Afghanistan. So he was, not only did he steal his brother and mother's life, he was now living with stolen valor.
The cojones of some people, I swear to goodness.
He also claimed that he was an orphan and that his mother was a sex worker. What a total piece of shit. Total piece of shit. For his cooperation, the real Rudy Rios picked up the $10,000 reward for turning in Bart. With all this information, Bart Whitaker was arrested on September 22nd, 2005 in Monterrey, Mexico, and was taken into custody after he showed up for what he believed was a job interview. Guess he didn't want to work at that furniture store anymore. And then he was returned to Texas. In December 2005, the district attorney announced that the state of Texas would be seeking the death penalty against Bart, but they would not be seeking the death penalty against the gunman Chris Brashar or against Stephen Champagne. The DA believed neither of them would have committed violent crime if it wasn't for Bart. Bart was offered a plea deal in exchange for admission of guilt, but he declined.
I have some questions.
Narcissistic. You know what I mean? He was a narcissist. He thought he could get away with it. The trial for Bart Whitaker began in March of 2007. Bart refused to enter any plea, not even guilty or not guilty. The judge entered a not guilty plea on Bart's behalf. On the third day of the trial, Steve Champagne took the stand, and he went out exactly in detail about what happened the day that Kevin and Patricia were murdered. On the day of the murder, Stephen was in the parking lot at the seafood restaurant. That was the same restaurant that the Whitaker family was having dinner. And at the same time, Chris Brashar entered the Whitaker house, took Kevin's gun, and staged a burglary, and then he waited by the front door. Steve called Brashar when the Whitaker family had left the restaurant. Steve then followed the Whitaker car home, but he parked at the house behind the Whitakers' home. Kevin Whitaker entered the house first, with Tricia and Kent following, while Bart, of course, trailed behind, pretending to grab his phone from the car. And now Bart knew full well that his family was about to get murdered, or hoped that his whole family was going to be murdered. Kevin, one shot to the chest, he dropped to the floor and died on the scene. Patricia, of course, being next. And then Kent was then shot on the porch. Later, Kent would recall, quote, "It's a strange feeling to watch your white shirt turn red."
I bet.
After the three were shot, Bart staged a scuffle and directed Brashar to shoot him in the arm to divert suspicion. Before Stephen left the stand, he dropped a bombshell. He claimed that during a restaurant conversation in 2004, Bart had said that, quote, "the job isn't done," and began to detail a plot to kill the last survivor, his father, Kent Whitaker. On March 8th, 2007, a jury deliberated for only an hour and a half, and they found Bart guilty of capital murder.
Good.
Bart never took the stand during the trial, but he did during the penalty phase, and he pled to not be sentenced to death. Why? Because they're always chicken. They're always willing to kill other people, but when it comes to saving their own skin,
always
they get all like a baby. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Bart claimed that the murders weren't financial. Rather, it happened because Bart's hatred of family because he could never fulfill their expectations. Well, that seems stupid, doesn't it? That sounds like that's on him, not them.
Yeah, people.
Bart also said that while he was hiding out in Mexico, he had found God, and also claimed that he was participating in the jail's Bible study. Little too late, buddy. Good try. Swing and a miss. What other kind of things we can say? The jury would then deliberate for 10 hours, and many of them would be in tears. However, at the end, they made the decision to sentence Bart to death. They're in Texas.
I would agree with
right?
that. That was a pretty brutal crime.
Then to go down to
vacation in Mexico for 2-something years. Yeah.
Go to Mexico and then claim that his mom was a sex worker to like totally soil her reputation and
sex worker in a really nice fancy house.
Yeah. They gave him everything and he just shit all over him. Bart's father, Kent, stood by his son's side through the whole trial and even flinched when he heard the guilty verdict. He later told the press that while the verdict's decision was not what he had hoped, he called it God's will. Bart, of course, sat emotionless. Meanwhile, Chris Brashear took a plea bargain and received a sentence of life in prison with a chance of parole after 30 years. And when 2035 comes, Chris, who will be 53, he will be eligible for parole. Steve Champagne got 15 years in prison in exchange for testifying against both Chris and Bart. He's already been released from prison, though we don't know what's become of him. He probably changed his name.
I would think so.
Although Champagne still is a kick-ass name.
It really is. Maybe
he changed it to Chlamydia Champagne. That'd be good. Or is Chlamydia a girl's name? I forget. I guess anything goes this day and age.
It does.
In 2008, Kent Whitaker released his book called Murder by Family. The book detailed the murders as well as his path to forgiveness, not only for his son Bart, but also for Chris Brashear. He is remarried to a woman named Tanya, and in 2008, after his son was sentenced to death, he still lives in the same Sugarland house that Kevin and Tricia died in. Though I
could not do that.
Kent has also given plenty of interviews to many people about his path of forgiveness towards his son. In the early days of Bart's prison sentence, Kent was candid that he forgave his son, most notably in a 2008 interview with Oprah. Kent was asked a very tough question. Oprah asked Kent, quote, "What makes you think he's changed and that he's not just manipulating you?" Kent responded by saying, quote, "Could be. He's good at it. He's proven he has. But my love for him and my forgiveness for him isn't based on him changing. That's between God and himself."
Oh.
Takes a big man to forgive something like that. I would have a very hard time.
I think to forgive is really alleviating the pressure on yourself more so than the other person, because it's causing more harm to Kent to be mad.
To live with it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I think forgiving is one thing. Forgetting is a whole nother story.
While Kent's forgiveness may have surprised people from the outside, it didn't shock people close to him. Relatives and family friends weren't surprised at all, with one family friend named Matt Barnhill saying in the same 2008 Oprah interview, quote, "The last thing I am is surprised that he wants to be the guy who's got forgiveness in his heart." Bart Whitaker has appealed his death sentence several times. In April 2017, his appeal of prosecutorial misconduct was thrown out. In October of 2017, the United States Supreme Court refused to hear another one of Whitaker's appeals, this time on alleged insufficiency of counsel. Then on September 1st, 2017, the doomed death warrant was signed, which scheduled Bart's execution for February 22nd, 2018. Drama about the execution would continue all the way up until the February 22nd date. Just 2 days before Bart's scheduled execution, the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles recommended clemency for Bart Whitaker after many impassioned pleas by his father, Kent.
Is that why? I was just going to say, why would they give him clemency? But I guess maybe if the father was
begged, a family member of the crime begged for clemency, maybe they would take that in consideration. It truly looked that this was the end for Bart Whitaker. At around 5:15 on February 22nd, Bart Whitaker ate his final meal, and then he was strapped to the gurney to begin the lethal injection process. However, with only 45 minutes until his scheduled execution, Bart Whitaker's death sentence was commuted to life imprisonment by Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Talk
Don't
about
get me
the
started
last
on Greg
minute.
Abbott.
I mean, seriously. I would probably have a heart attack just knowing I was about to die. They wouldn't even have to pardon me.
Governor Abbott would say, quote, Mr. Whitaker's father, who survived the attempt on his life, passionately opposes the execution of his son. Mr. Whitaker's father insists that he would be victimized again if the state put to death his last remaining immediate family member. However, Abbott added that Bart agreed to waive all further rights to parole.
Well,
So that means they'd save his life, but he can never ask for parole.
Mm-hmm. I would think not.
Mm-hmm. Kent Whitaker was thereby overjoyed. He said that he was at a hospitality home provided by the local church and that he had been praying at the time. He said that he had received a phone call from one of his attorneys that Governor Abbott had commuted his son's sentence. He even said that he put the call on speakerphone and that the rest of the people in the church just erupted in claps, and they were hooting and hollering because when it was announced.
Mm-hmm.
Bart released a statement saying that he wasn't grateful for himself, but for his father. Bart said, quote, I'm thankful not for me, but for my dad. Any punishment that I will have or will receive or would receive is just, but my dad did nothing wrong. The system worked for him today, and I will do my best to uphold my role in the system. Bart Whitaker is now 41 and is currently held at the William S. McConnell Unit in Beeville, Texas, where he remains in solitary confinement.
Oh.
And that's the story of Bart Whitaker.
Solitary confinement would be...
Hell.
That would kill me.
For me, it would be hell.
Yes. I wonder how come he's in solitary confinement, because I don't know. Interesting. Well, that was pretty darn good, Ethan. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan.
I just,
cool.
I don't understand how, like, what goes wrong with these people that they decide that they need to kill their family. They raised you.
The kid has everything already, it seems.
Exactly.
I mean, granted, he didn't finish college, but they did give him a Rolex watch. They gave him a nice vehicles. They bought him a condo. I mean, the kid didn't want for anything.
Really didn't.
Why would he want more? Everything. Why would he want everything? Because once he has everything, then that's it.
He has to regret that so much. I mean, on so many levels, of course, but
I would hope he would.
He had everything he could ever want, right? And he just totally tossed it out the window by killing the people that loved him the most.
Right. I don't have any friends or even know of anybody that I could broach the subject to. You know?
And
do you?
If there's, yeah, you do it for me maybe. But if there's one thing that we've all learned, and
I wouldn't kill your mom. She's nice. Other people that you might be related.
I think the one thing that we can all say, and if we're listening to true crime, we know if you're going to commit a major crime like that, it has to be you and you alone, because people will sing. And also, if you're involved in a crime, be the first one to go to police and testify against the others. Testify. You sing like a canary, like you up on stage, and that is the way to go.
You take the deal and you get out. But yeah, what's the thing? Only two can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
That's right.
Isn't that how that goes?
People, there's... That was very good, Ethan. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Appreciate it. So what have you been watching on the TV?
What have I not been watching, you mean? Oh, Jen, that's all I do. It was pretty sad yesterday. My daughter came in my bedroom and she goes, oh, a change of scenery, because I'm watching TV in my bedroom versus watching TV in the other room. I was just,
good.
It was just sad. It was like that. That's really what my daughter thinks of me. Thanks, Peach.
Do you have bed sores yet?
No. No.
Well, that's good.
Right.
You're moving, so that's good.
Sort of. I got to get up and eat, of course. I can't even.
Did you watch the Soleil Moon Fry? You did, correct?
I sure did. What'd you think? What did you think about that?
You know, it was funny because to talk my husband into it, I'm like, look at this article. They compared it with Goodfellas. So like he was all excited. And then like halfway through, he's like, what's this have to do with Goodfellas? Because it's like one of his stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. That's what just somebody said.
That is hilarious.
No, it's just sad. Kids growing up in Hollywood.
It's a different world. All those kids were like, not a generation, but they were under us, right? So like we grew up in the 80s. They kind of grew up in the late 80s, early 90s.
Early 90s.
So they're a little bit.
Brian Austin Green, Balthazar Getty.
I didn't even recognize him.
I did. Stephen Dorff. At first I didn't, but then once they did a close-up on his face, I recognized him. I didn't know Jenny West. I had to look her up. But it's just it's sad.
It is sad. It's a different... speaking of Bart, who got everything he wanted, that's sort of... In Hollywood, that's, you're there for one reason, and that is to work in the industry. And
to make other people money.
Yep.
Yeah. But to be 14 or 15 and be able to get into clubs and drink alcohol and have all those drugs provided for you or easily obtained.
Drew Barrymore,
I mean,
age 11. By 13, she was snorting coke. That's insane.
Yeah. Just crazy.
And they know these are celebrities. So when they come to the door, they're not 18 or 21. You know that they're babies, but money talks, so they let them in.
I loved how they were doing the Soleil on stage going, don't do drugs. You don't need them. You're better than that. And here they are. The next scene, she's dropping acid and, smoking weed. And it's just, I'm sure they had a great time for the time. I mean, the 90s, but I can't.
Just a different lifestyle, that's for sure.
It's kind of sad and lonely if you think about it. And how many of those kids committed suicide and... Like Jonathan Brandis, totally, I forgot that he committed suicide.
Yep.
It was interesting. It was fun to see the old videos, the home videos of everyone. And that was kind of fun. And it was a nice little flashback, but it was
I agree.
kind of sad and a little bit depressing to watch.
I was almost thinking, though, she should have. So she taped her whole life, in essence, and journaled everything she ever did and people she met. I almost wish she would have done like a short series instead of a 2-hour. I would have preferred maybe like a 6-part series, and I think she would have.
Yeah, that would be good.
Probably,
like one for each person, maybe just delve into a little bit more.
Yeah, like the plastic surgery she had, that her growing up doing drugs.
I remember that.
All of that, Just I think she probably had enough there for more, because there were things that I would like to know more about, because I'm nosy.
Yeah. And David Arquette, didn't he look really old?
Yeah, but I thought he looked okay. Balthazar Getty's
they all looked okay.
Threw me with his totally gray hair. I was like, who is that? Yeah, because he was...
I thought they all looked great, but I looked at David Arquette, and even my husband goes, wow, he's our age, and he hung out with them. And then I'm like, I don't think he's our age. And then he looked it up, and he's like, shit, he's 6 years younger than we are.
Yeah.
Or something he looked our age when he's not quite our age.
He's had a bit of a rough life too, I think.
He has.
So.
He's done the drugs. And Brian Gosler, Zach from Saved by the Bell, he looked a little bit different. I had to focus on him at first.
That's the wrong name.
Mark Paul Gosler.
There you go.
Paul Mark Gosler. I don't know.
Paul Gosler.
Yeah, I had to concentrate on his face a little bit at first.
Oh no, I thought he looked exactly the same. But he did.
His face
NYPD
was
Blue.
Fuller.
Well, aren't
it was
we
fuller
all?
And his oh, I know, mine's ballooned, but his face was fuller, and he's not blonde. When I think of Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell, I think bleach blonde.
Do you know he has a podcast called? You ready? Zach to the Future.
Nice, good for him.
Yeah,
let's make his money where he's known from.
Everybody has a podcast.
Yeah.
They really do. So,
so what else did you watch?
Marriage or Mortgage. Now, it's okay. There's a wedding planner and there is a mortgage person, real estate agent, and she shows you things. So I watched the first couple episodes, but the very first episode, I'm like, Omid Kahangi, who was my good buddy in LA, he's like the executive producer.
I remember Omid.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's cute. So I watched that, and
no, marriage or mortgage. What's the premises? Do you either have a big marriage? You either have a big wedding.
You're engaged, and you can have a big wedding with all the bells and whistles, or you can take that money that you would spend on your wedding and go get a house. So
easy house.
A house for us.
That's not even
because we're old, but yeah.
No, even if I was young, I mean, I got married at the Justice of the Peace. I didn't want a big wedding. I'd rather I took the money and ran.
I took money and ran.
Yeah. To me, the whole wedding thing isn't worth it. When's the last time you wore your wedding dress?
Tess was 7, and I put it on her. And yeah. So does that count?
Yeah. But to me, it's just not worth it. And I know to each their own, but I'd rather have the money for the house.
But when you get older, that's the deal. But when you're younger, right? These people want their big wedding and things like that. Kids. The darn kids.
The kiddies.
I watched, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm such a loser. I watched Night in Rodanthe with Richard Gere and Diane Lane. I watched that. I watched that this morning because I had never seen it. And you know what? It was pretty good.
Yeah. You've been watching a lot of old movies lately, haven't you?
Because I ran out of all the new ones, Jen.
Yeah.
Terrible. So then I stumbled.
You watched, I was going to say 48 Hours and realized how horribly un-PC and would never get going in today's day and age. The old 48 Hours, yeah.
Oh, the movie. The movie with Nick Nolte. Oh,
yes.
Woo.
Eddie Murphy.
And that was from 1982. And in that alone, Nick Nolte called Eddie Murphy the N-word.
Don't say any of them. Don't just say how many slurs.
3,
Don't
and then referred to watermelon. And I was like, seriously? That was supposed to be funny in 1982.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I did not finish it. I was like,
we were 12.
I was shocked. I was like,
yeah.
What?
It's almost kind of sickening to go back and watch some of those shows. And it's embarrassing, too, that you're like, oh, my God, I love this. And by today's standards, it's kind of shocking. It's shocking.
Terrible. Just even things that came out 5 years ago with things that would never fly today. It's like, hey. All right, Jen, do we have any promos this week?
Today's promo is from our friend Mike at Murder Mile. It's a UK-based true crime podcast, and what he actually does for a living is he gives tours around London about famous crime scenes and all that kind of stuff, too. So he's going to be at CrimeCon when we are. So not only do we get to meet him, we're hoping we can take his tour.
That would be so fun.
And if you guys all come along to CrimeCon, they've moved the dates to September. So we would love to see you there. And if you need tickets, reach out to us and we'll give you all that information.
Or you can go to crimeconuk.com and look up stuff, I do believe.
And I think our code, if you want to get some percentages off, if you want to get a discount, you can use the OTCP code.
There you go.
And come see us. We would love to see friendly faces there.
I'm so looking forward to it. I just wish it was during the summer.
But what can you do? That pandemic.
Dang COVID. All right, Jen. Until next time, remember, lock your doors.
Keep passing by those open windows.
Bye-bye.
Love ya.
Hey friends, I'm Michael, host of the Murder Mile UK True Crime Podcast. I would be delighted if you joined me every Thursday for a walk through the untold, unsolved and long-forgotten murders of London's West End, featuring hundreds of fascinating true crime tales you won't hear anywhere else. If you're looking for something different, the award-winning and highly acclaimed Murder Mile UK True Crime Podcast is researched using the original police files. It's presented as a dramatization. Each episode is crafted as a labor of love, and it focuses on the victims' lives in an honest, detailed, and sympathetic way. Season 5 has just begun, so why not treat yourself to more than 150 episodes? If that sounds like your cup of tea, search for the Murder Mile UK True Crime Podcast. Thank you.
A few doors down from Krish Bashir lived Stephen Champagne. Almost sounds like a stripper name, doesn't it? On center stage is Stephen Champagne. Bart, now living as Rudy Rios, had now settled into a town of Ceralvo. Do we know this? Caralvo?
How do you spell it?
Pronounce.com.
I hope our monthly stipend from them is going to be coming in the mail pretty soon.
Cerralvo.
Caravallo. Is that right?
Caravallo, I bet. I bet you it's Caravallo.
It's Caravallo.
Cerralvo.
Oh, okay. Sarajevo.
Cerralvo. And this would force the judge, Clifford. Oh, Jesus.
Is that his last name? That is amazing.
I know.
So,
so what else did you watch?
Jen, I see my days just mushed together. I can't even remember what I watched yesterday. It was something new on Netflix because I had to hit all the new stuff. Hold on, I'll look it up. So I love my Saturday mornings because it means that Netflix releases all their new stuff. I am such a loser. It is embarrassing.
And here, I barely watch TV. So I was like, on Friday, I was excited to watch The Soleil Moon Frye. Mm-hmm. And that night, of course, my kids are like, hey, let's watch Family Guy together. Not Family Guy. Let's watch King of the Hill together. So it's like odd that the entire family gathered in the living room. And I'm thinking, while I loved having my kids together, I'm thinking, damn it, I wanted to watch my show. I didn't want to watch King of the Hill. I'm like all gruntled, but it was fun sitting with my family watching the old King of the Hill.
So, yeah, I kind of went back and watched a lot of 80s movies and things like that. Like I watched Less Than Zero, which is kind of ironic because, Robert Downey Jr. had that. He was basically playing himself.
Living out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that was interesting, which kind of goes with Soleil Moon Frye with the kids that have everything in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah. And then this morning I watched After, which I thought was really good. It's a young adult fiction book that was made into a movie. And then as I was getting ready to come on here with you, I realized that there's a sequel. So I'm so excited to get done with this and go watch the sequel.
Good for you.
I have no life.
I've got to find something to watch as I put away about 50 loads of laundry. So
I did that yesterday.
That's always fun.
So that's pretty good for me.
I've never liked doing it, but now I'm trying to do the Marie Kondo way of folding and stuff, and I'm hating it even more.
Mm-hmm. Nope.
But I love the way it all fits in my drawers, my chest of drawers. I love all that, but it takes so much more time.
Yeah, too much work.